Good evening, students. Today I am going to teach you The Lost Child, Moments, first chapter. A child goes to a fair with his parents. He is happy and excited and wants the sweets and toys displayed there, but his parents don't buy them for him. Why then does he refuse when someone else offers them to him? Now, first of all, let me tell you the summary of this chapter. The Lost Child is the story of a small child who gets lost in a fair. He had gone with his parents to the fair, but loses them when he gets engrossed in looking a roundabout swing. The story highlights the bond of love and affection that the child shares with his parents. Before losing them, he had been demanding different things like sweets, balloons, flowers, swings, etc. Once he loses them, he is picked up by a stranger. The stranger tries to quieten means उसको चुप कराने की कोशिश कर रहा था the child by offering him all these things that he had demanded from his parents, but the child does not want them anymore. He wants his parents first. Okay, now I would like to explain para by para. It was the festival of spring. From the wintry shades of narrow lanes and alleys emerged a gaily clad humanity. Some walked, some rode on horses, others had been carried in bamboo and bullock carts. One little boy ran between his father's legs, brimming over with life and laughter. So the story is set in the spring season. As the winter season had just ended, all the people came out of their houses. They were cheerful as the chilling cold weather had ended. People conveyed through different roads, different modes, foot, horses, bamboo carts, and bullock carts. A little child was accompanied by his parents. He ran excitedly and often banged into his father's legs. He was full of life, excitement, and laughter. Now, next para. "Come, child, come," called his parents as he lagged behind, fascinated by the toys in the shops that lined the way. Lagged behind matlab was left behind. Fascinated means attracted by. Lined the way means were set up along the way. The child was attracted to the toys which were displayed at the various stalls. As he would be left behind, his parents would call him to come with him. He hurried towards his parent, his feet obedient to their call. His eyes were still lingering on the receding toys. As he came to where they had stopped to wait for him, he could not suppress the desire of his heart, even though he well knew the old, cold stare of refusal in their eyes. Okay, now the child was obedient. Now, first of all, the hard words of this lingering. Lingering means lasting for a long time. Receding, left behind as he walked ahead. Suppress, put an end to. Cold, without any feeling, emotion. The child was obedient and would walk towards them on being called, but his eyes would keep on looking at the toys that he wanted. As he reached them, he could not control his desire to buy a toy. He was familiar to the reaction that they would give. He knew that they would stare him, indicating denial. Denial matlab mana karna, to buy him the toy. The child knew the emotionless way in which they would stare at him. "I want that toy," he pleaded. The child was unable to control his desire any longer. He said that he wanted to buy the toy. Now, his father, his father looked at him red-eyed in his familiar trance way. His mother, melted by the free spirit of the day, was tender and giving him her finger to hold, said, "Look, child, what is before you?" Now, again, hard word. First of all, Tyrant, a cruel and oppressive ruler. क्रूअल मतलब थोड़ा ऐसे लुच्चाई जैसे बोलते हैं ना हम लोग लुच्चाई, ठीक है, तो क्रूअल. The father's eyes grew red with anger. He looked at the child just like cruel ruler who was trying to oppress him. His mother, melted by free spirit. Okay, melted का मतलब क्या होता है? Become tender and loving. The mother became emotional due to the cheerful mood. Lovingly, she gave her finger to the child to hold and guide him to a place. She asked him to see what it was in front of him. Okay, now next para. It was a flower of mustard field, pale like melting gold as it swept across miles and miles, even on a land. Then a group of dragonflies were bustling about on their gaudy purple wings, intercepting the flights of a lone black bee or butterfly in search of sweetness from the flowers. The child followed them in the air with the gaze, till one of them would still its wings and rest, and he would try to catch it, but it would go fluttering, flapping up in the air. When he had almost caught it in his hands, then his mother gave a cautionary call, "Come, child, come on the footpath." Now, difficult words. Now, first of all, pale. Pale means dull, colorless. Gaudy. Gaudy means extremely bright and showy. Then, understand this para. There was a vast field full of bright yellow colored mustard flowers. They seemed like flowing streams of gold and were widespread. A group of dragonflies, black bees, and butterflies buzzed around and sucking the nectar from the flowers. The child looked at them as they flew around when one of the set somewhere when one of the said somewhere he tried to catch them, but tiny creatures would fly away the next instant. The mother called out to him as they started to walk down the footpath. Next para. He ran towards his parents gaily and walked abreast of them for a while, being however soon left behind, attracted by little insects and worms along the footpath that were teeming out from their hiding place to enjoy the sunshine. So, abreast का meaning होता है side by side and facing the same way, and teeming out का मतलब है to pour and empty out or empty out. ठीक है? The child ran towards his parents. He walked next to them, but after a few steps he stopped to see the insects who were coming out of the soil. Once again, the child was left behind. Okay, next para, "Come, child, come." His parents called from the shade of a grove where they had seated themselves on the edge of a wall. He ran towards them. Now, what do you mean by grove? A small wood or a group of trees? The parents called him. They sat next to well under the shady trees. The child once again ran and joined his parents. Okay. Now, a shower. ये बहुत ही interesting है. A shower of young flowers fell upon the child as he entered the grove, and forgetting his parents, he began to gather the raining petals in his hands. But lo, he heard the cooing of doves and ran towards his parents, shouting, "The dove, the dove!" The raining petals dropped from his forgotten hands. As the child entered, now explanation, as the child entered the shady forest area, he was welcomed by a shower of flowers. He forget his parents and started collecting the petals that had fallen. Petals मतलब जो फूल के पत्ते होते हैं वो. Just then he heard the cooing of doves, was excited to see them. He started chasing the birds in the process of the petals fell from his hand. This shows that his child got attracted towards the next thing, forget what he was doing earlier. Okay. "Come, child, come," they called to child who had gone running in the wild capers round the banyan tree, and gathering him up, they took a narrow winding footpath which led to the fair through the mustard fields. Now, capers, what do you mean by capers? A playful skipping movement. Okay. Now, the parents called the child who was running and playing around a banyan tree. They lifted him and walked down the narrow, twisting lane through which they crossed the mustard fields and reached the fair. Now, as they neared the village, the child could see many other footpaths full of throngs converging to the whirlpool of the fair, and felt at once repelled and fascinated by the confusion of the world he was entering. Now, throngs means huge crowd, coverings means gathering. So, as they were about to reach the fair, the child saw a huge crowd of people walking from all directions towards the fair. The dense crowd scared him and he stepped back for a while, but the next moment he get attracted to the mind-boggling crowd of humanity. Now next para, a sweet seller hawked a gulab jamun, rasgulla, barfi, jalebi at the corner and a corner of the entrance, and crowd pressed round his counter at the foot of an architecture of many colored trees decorated with leaves of silver and gold. The child stared open-eyed and his mouth watered for the burfi that was his favorite sweet. I want that burfi, he slowly murmured. But he half knew as he begged that his plea would not be heeded because his parents would say he was greedy. So without waiting for an answer, he moved on. Now he did matlab kya? Paid attention to. Now explanation of that para. At the entrance of the fair, to one corner, a sweet meat seller had set up a shop. He was selling various sweets like gulab jamun, rasgulla, barfi, and jalebi. The sweets were displayed at different heights and were covered with foils of gold and silver. The boy's mouth watered when he sighted his favorite burfi. He expressed his desire to get one in low voice because he knew that his request would be refused by his parents. They would say that he was greedy for the burfi. Greedy means lalchi, as he did not expect that his demand would be fulfilled. He walked further. Next, a flower seller hawked a garland of Gulmohar. The child seemed irresistibly drawn. He went towards the basket where the flowers lay heaped and half murmured, I want that garland. But he well knew his parents would refuse to buy him those flowers because they would say that they were cheap. So without waiting for an answer, he moved on. So the next stall was that of flower seller. He announced that he was selling a garlands of gulmohar flowers. The child wanted one of those. He walked towards the basket of lowers and again announced the desire to have one in low voice because he knew that his demand would not be fulfilled. They would refuse to buy him the flowers as they would say that they were cheap. Again, the boy walked and without expecting a reply from his parents. Now, next para. A man stood holding a pole with yellow, red, green, and purple balloons flying from it. The child was simply carried away by the rainbow glory of their silken colors, and he was filled with an overwhelming desire to possess them all. But he well knew his parents would never buy him the balloons because they would say he was too old to play with such toys. So he walked on further. Now, some difficult words. Overwhelming means a very strong emotion. Now the next thing that the child came across was a balloon seller selling balloons of different colors of rainbow. The boy was attracted to shiny colors of the balloon and wanted to have them all. He knew that his parents would not buy balloons for him as they would reason that he was too old to play with them. So the child walked further. आपको भी पता है कि आप कुछ डिमांड करोगे आपके पेरेंट्स से, बराबर है? तो आपके पेरेंट्स अगर डिमांडिंग चीज अगर अच्छी हुई तो ही लाके देंगे, अगर डिमांडिंग चीज अच्छी नहीं होगी तो आपके पेरेंट्स मना कर देंगे और आपको पता होता है फिर भी आप डिमांड करते हो। वैसे ही ये बच्चा भी जो है वो इस तरह से ही डिमांड करता था। नेक्स्ट पैरा, a snake charmer stood playing a flute to a snake which coiled itself in a basket, its head raised in a graceful bend like the neck of a swan, while the music stole into its invisible ears like gentle rippling of an invisible waterfall. The child went towards the snake charmer, but knowing his parents had forbidden him to hear such coarse music as the snake charmer played, he proceeded further. Now, forbidden, not allowed. Coarse means unpleasant. Then he paused at a snake charmer who was playing a flute, and the snake was twisting its neck to the music. The snake had coiled itself in a basket and had raised his head out. It bent and moved its neck gracefully like a swan. It seemed that the music of flute was heard by snake invisible ears and created the effect of waterfall on it because it swayed its neck similarly. The boy walked towards the snake charmer, but his parents had warned him to remain away from the unpleasant music. played by such a man, and he walked further. Now next, there was a roundabout in full swing. Roundabout मतलब क्या, चकडोल जैसा, ठीक है. Men, women and children carried away in a whirling motion, shrieked and cried with a dizzy laughter. The child watched them intently, and then he made a bold request. I want to go roundabout, please, father, mother. Now, then he saw a roundabout swing. It was full of men and women and children who were enjoying the rides. The boy watched the people of the roundabout and then, with lot of courage, expressed his desire to go on a roundabout. Now, next, there was no reply. He turned to look at his parents. They were not there. Ahead of him, he turned to look on either side. They were not there. He looked behind. There was no sign of them. So, when his parents did not reply, he turns towards them. He saw that they were nowhere around him. He looked around and behind he looked around and behind, but his parents were now nowhere seen. Next, a full deep cry rose within his dry throat, and with sudden jerk of his body, he ran from where he stood, crying in real fear. Mother, father! Tears rolled down from his eyes, hot and furious. His flushed face was convulsed with fear. Panic-stricken, he ran to one side first, then to other, hither and thither, in all directions, knowing not where to go. Mother, father, he wailed. His yellow turban came untied, and his clothes become muddy. Now, different meanings and different words. So hither and thither stands mean that means here and there. The boy crowed loudly and his sorry loud sorry the boy cried loudly, jerked his body and ran here and there, calling out his parents. He was full of fear, and tears started rolling down his cheeks as he walked and ran around. His turban opened, his clothes become muddy. Now, next para. Having run to and fro in rage of running for a while, he stood defeated, his cries suppressed into sobs. At little distance on green grass, he could see, through his filmy eyes, man and woman talking. He tried to look intently among the patches of bright yellow clothes, but there was no sign of his father and mother among these people, who seemed to laugh and talk just for the sake of laughing and talking. So, what are the difficult word over here? Intently. Intently means carefully. Okay. So after some time he gave up. The loud cries turned into mild sobs. Sobs मतलब ऐसा आंसू निकलना. He saw some people standing and talking and tried to find if his parents were among them. The laughter and talks of the people were meaningless for the child. He was simply searching for his parents. Next, he ran quickly again, this time to the shrine to which people seemed to be crowding. Every little inch of space here was congested. Congested means ऐसे खींच भरा हुआ, ठीक है, with men. But he ran through people's legs, his little sob lingering. Mother, father, near the entrance of to the temple. However, the crowd became very thick. Men jostled means pushing each other. Heavy men with flashing murderous eyes and hefty shoulders means very heavy shoulders. The poor child struggled to the thrust away between their feet, but knocked to and fro by their brutal movements. Brutal means very hard. He might have been trampled underfoot had he not shrieked at the highest pitch of his voice, "Father, mother!" A man in the surging crowd heard his cry and, stopping with a great difficulty, lifted him up in his arms. Now, meanings: congested means pull off, hefty means large and heavy, thrust means push, knocked means hit, brutal, harsh, rough, trampled, crushed, surging, the powerful. Okay, now the boy ran towards the temple, which was crowded with people. He ran through the legs of men, calling out for his parents. The crowd was pushing each other as he neared the entrance of the temple. The boy got scared of huge, strong men who stared people with their murderous eyes and pushed them with strong and big shoulders. The boy could have been crushed under the feet of the men Had his cries not been heard by a man in the crowd, he lifted the child. Now, next para. "How did you get here, child? Whose baby are you?" the man asked as he steered clear of the mass. The child wept more bitterly than ever now and only cried, "I want my mother, I want my father." Okay, so what? As the man got the child out of the crowd, he asked him how he reached there and what were his parents' names. What were his parents' name? The boy cried even more and repeated that he wanted his parents. Okay, now next, the man tried to soothe him by taking him to roundabout. "Will you have a ride on the horse?" he gently asked as he approached the ring. The child's throat tore into thousand shrill sobs and he only shouted, "I want my mother, I want my father." Soothe का मतलब होता है relax, comfort देना. The man tried to relax the child by taking him to the roundabout swing. He offered him a ride, but child screamed and wept loudly. Wept means रोना, ज़्यादा जोर से रोया, and he only uttered one thing, that he wants his parents. Next. The man headed towards the place where the snake charmer still played on the flute to the swaying cobra. "Listen to that nice music, child," he pleaded. But the child shut his ears with his fingers and shouted his double pitched strain, "I want my father, I want my mother." The man took him near the balloons, thinking the bright colors of balloons would distract the child's attention and quieten him. "Would you like the rainbow colored balloon?" he persuasively asked. The child turned his eyes from flying balloons and just sobbed, "I want my father, I want my mother." Okay, now what he said, pleased means request, sorry, pleaded means what? Requested. Double pitched means usage of lot of force. Now what has happened? I'm trying to explain you the last para. The man started walking back on the same route which the child had taken. So he took the child to the snake charmer. He asked him to listen to the nice music being played and screamed loudly the sorry sorry being played by the snake charmer. The child shut his ears with his finger and screamed loudly that he wanted his parents. The man took the child to the bright colored balloons, hoping that he might get cheered by seeing them. He offered a balloon to the child, but he turned away and wept for the father. The man, still trying to make the child happy, bore him to the gate where the flower seller said, "Look, can you smell those nice flowers, child? Would you like the garland to put round your neck?" So bore means carried. The man tried to make the child happy and took him to the flower seller. He asked him to smell the fragrance of the flowers and offer him a garland. The child turned his nose away from the basket and reiterated his sob, "I want my mother, I want my father." Reiterated matlab repeated. Here the child refused to smell the flowers that he wanted to buy earlier because now his priority was to get his parents. Thinking to humor his disconsolate charge by a gift of sweets, the man took him to the counter of sweet shop. "What sweets would you like, child?" he asked. The child turned his face from the sweet shop and only sobbed, "I want my mother, I want my father." So disconsolate का मतलब होता है very unhappy and unable to be comforted. Charge का मतलब होता है a person or a thing interested to care of someone. So finally the man took him to the sweetmeat seller and offered to buy some sweets. Still the child did not want his favorite sweets but wanted his parents. This overall chapter was written by Mulk Raj Anand. Okay, that's the end of your chapter. Thank you very much.